We'll continue our conversation with former Scopa Chair Themba Godi. Mr. Godi, thank you so much for staying on the line for us. I want us to look at the role, because we spoke just before the break about how political will is part, lack of political will rather, is part of the problem here. But there's also a role that Mr. Molefe has also cited that appears to have been weakened somewhat, and that's the law enforcement authorities. What role would they need to be playing, particularly when things get to this point in organizations like PRASA?
Well, look, most often I had to try and explain to the public, and I'm thankful that we're having this discussion, that when there is corruption in PRASA, it is not the duty of Parliament or Scopa to go and investigate, arrest people, charge them, and prosecute them and sentence them to, to jail. There is an accountability chain where there are different role players who play different roles. And law enforcement has its own place. The prosecuting authority has its own place, boards, management, and the like. What we also had a problem with was, I'm sure you'll recall, there was a body called the Anti-Corruption Task Team, which was an interministerial task team, which also comprised the DGs of various entities, together with the Hawks. We, as Scopa, actually called them to Parliament and said, but tell us, what are you people doing? The Auditor General releases reports annually with all manner of malfeasance, but we are not seeing law enforcement coming to play. What is the problem? And I must say that we found that that body was literally not doing anything, so to speak. And actually there was very little direction and cooperation in it. And even though they were supposed to report to Cabinet on a quarterly basis, we were wondering what exactly were they doing. So what did we do as Scopa? We then invited the Hawks to attend all our meetings, and we supplied them with all documents that the Auditor General and departments were giving us to say, here are the documents, go through them, pick up on issues and cases that you believe might be having corruption, so that you don't have to wait for a DG to report a case. When Sean Abrams left as the Director of Prosecutions, we were already engaging him to say, they must also give us a prosecutor who must be full-time with us, so that when there are cases of malfeasance or corruption, they must not wait for anybody to report the case, but they can start the investigations themselves. When we looked at all the corruption cases that were taken, we had a sample of about 42. We found that almost all of them, except for one, they were all settled through plea bargaining. And a person who had misappropriated 50 million rands will be sentenced to pay a fine of 20,000 rands and 3 years suspended. And we were horrified. We couldn't accept that, because if that is the price you pay for stealing 100 million, 60 million, you're going to get a suspended sentence because you did a plea bargaining. It was only those guys who robbed the post bank, the post office, who were sentenced to lengthy prison terms. But the rest of the people, so you find therefore that law enforcement was also not assisting in terms of the kind of sentences that were coming from the courts and the kind of investigations that they were doing, the time it took for them to investigate a case. So you find therefore that the chain had a lot of roadblocks along the way for it to be effective and to be efficient.
Let's talk about another worrying picture, a situation that we're seeing unfolding in our municipalities as per, the address by the Auditor General a short while ago. We see a jump from 32 billion rand, from 25 billion rand rather, to 32 billion rand in irregular expenditure in our municipalities. Some of them cannot even deliver basic services like water, and sanitation. it's really, just a picture that is really not good, particularly for a country that is trying to improve accountability. What is your reaction to these numbers?
Well, look, I'm here at home in Bushbuckridge. I'm some 15 kilometers from the dam, a multi-million rand dam, but we're struggling to have water. And I would say it is a situation that replicates itself in hundreds of other communities. I think what we need to accept is that our municipalities and the model we're using is a complete failure. The overwhelming majority of our municipalities are dysfunctional. They're dysfunctional because they don't have skills. And what I've come to appreciate now that I'm full-time at home, I'm no longer in parliament, is that the problem is not that you don't have skilled people in the rural areas. It's a lie. The problem is that people are hired through nepotism. So you find that in offices you have people who don't know the work, and so they must then hire consultants to do their work, which means it's double pay. And these consultants still do not get their figures right. So the major problem, so when you look at your irregular expenditure, it means expenditure that was done without following procedures. People don't follow procedures because they don't know what they're doing. People don't follow procedures because they are corrupt. They want to give tenders to their friends who don't even know what work to do. So our problem is that we have our municipalities that are dysfunctional. And so these high amounts of irregular expenditure are actually a testimony to that effect.
And from what you're saying, do you say that those in charge have lost control of municipalities?
Look, overwhelming majority of our municipalities are dysfunctional. When I say that they are dysfunctional, it means that those at the helm don't know what they're doing. Everywhere you go, the problem, its services don't reach our people. Every year, resources are allocated. They may not be sufficient. Oh, it's okay. No country has ever had enough resources. But those resources are not utilized in the best interest of the people. I mean, here where I am in Bushbuckridge, you have close to 2 billion rands annually given to this municipality. But if you drive around here, you can't show me 2 billion rands on an annual basis that is used to improve the lives of the people. So yes, the people who are running our municipalities, be they the councillors at the political level, be it the administrators, they are hopelessly failing to discharge their responsibilities. And I think the report of the Auditor General is a confirmation of that.
Thank you so much for your time there, Themba Godi, who is a former Scopa chair in Parliament, painting a grim picture. I mean, you look at some of the things that he was talking about when it comes to what is unfolding at Prasa. It certainly does look like it has been a long time coming, and this is not a new picture at all. And talking about that important lack of political will when it comes to taking action, particularly against those that are found to be in the wrong, and also, reacting to some of what we've heard coming out from the Auditor General's report on the state of our municipalities.